Hello, this is Carmelo and Sasha from Arcanum Ventures, and we're back with another 10-minute investor eye test. Today, we're really excited to check out Bera Chain, an EVM-compatible Layer 1 blockchain utilizing the infamous proof of liquidity consensus mechanism, whatever that means. Sasha, we've been hearing about this for over half a year, and I see it's a very big meme community, very meme branding. So I'm very excited to check it out. I don't know why it's so popular. Have you heard anything particularly special about this project?
I've heard so much about Berachain over the past year, and the funny thing is everything you hear about Berachain is about like the business development activity
Hmm.
that they're kind of engaging in. You don't hear much about the technology. You don't hear much about like the advantages of the network over existing blockchain ecosystems. You hear about Berachain parties. You hear about like different apps that are going to build on Berachain, and then you
Hmm.
keep hearing about how Berachain did it right with like I don't know, like fundraising strategy or something. I know that they raised a ridiculous amount of money. I don't really
Yep.
know what proof of liquidity means, but it sounds kind of just like you know what Blast kind of did, right? You transfer over liquidity into their network or some like multi-sig wallet, and then maybe you're promised some rewards in the future. So it kind of sounds no different than like proof of investment, which doesn't seem like a very good way to decentralize a blockchain. But hopefully, we find out what Berachain is all about and why there's been so much hype around this thing for the past year.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think last was more about TVL, but this is more about getting as much liquidity on chain as possible, becoming the liquidity chain. So it does make sense to build a consensus mechanism around that, or a governance mechanism. Like, you want to give more weighted power to people that actually supply liquidity on your chain and bring liquidity there. So I think, off the top of my head, I think they raised $142 million from some really big hitters too, which is pretty intense. And I think they have two tokens. It's a two token ecosystem. So there's
Oh
like
well.
an actual liquidity, I don't know, a token that you get that isn't viable, maybe. I'm not positive, but I think there's two tokens. But, anyways, we have 10 minutes to check it out. And we all know, if this is the first time joining, 10 minutes is not enough to properly vet a project, but it is enough to, get an idea of what they're doing and see if you would like to progress with researching it more. It's even harder to do with a layer one, which Berachain is. So we're going to do our best with just 10 minutes, and we're going to figure out if Berachain is an interesting investment to look further into.
And without further ado, we'll go ahead and put 10 minutes on the clock for Berachain, starting right meow. Okay, we've got crypto rank up, one of our sources of information, and as you can see, they don't have a whole lot of information around the token launch. I think the mainnet should be launching today, or maybe tomorrow,
Yep.
from what I've seen on Twitter. But here are the funding rounds, and like you said, Series A 42 million from some very recognizable funds in here. We've got Polychain Cap, Shima, Tribe, Robot Ventures, and then 100 million in the Series B. And it seems like everyone else got on board here, including Yasu.
Yep.
So Hashkey, Arrington, Samsung Next, Cipher
Brevin Howard.
for them. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
fantastic.
like usual, when you and I see some huge names on the cap table, then our first question is how and why. If you look at the logo for Bera Chain, it's two emojis, and they've been not shy about just owning this meme sort of branding, if you want to call it that. I believe the team is not even docs. Like, people know who they are. They've probably had the KYC and KYB, but public facing, they wear bear costumes and they throw parties, like you mentioned. So it's a little bit interesting. I think you and I both would never invest in something we didn't know the founders, but I imagine these guys that are putting huge checks into this $142 million pot, they're definitely knowing the real Smokey the Bear. They're not talking to a guy in a bear costume on Skype or, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. I
So
think
what?
you if you're raising that much money, you have to be visible. There has to be accountability, and it's probably all for like the marketing stunt, right? Like the growing this kind of like meme or cult following. Maybe they saw the value in doing that around hopefully a very legitimate blockchain ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it appears to be legitimate, and I understand the thinking behind that, and I appreciate that they're not actually totally anonymous. But the one thing I don't like about this is this weird separation between retail and VCs. Like VCs have privileged access to who these people actually are, and they can hold them accountable. Whereas your average person that wants to invest in Berachain, you know, they're completely in the dark about who these people actually are, and they're not privy to that information, which I don't really love. But anyways, it's better than everybody being totally anonymous.
This is very true. I think like the court of public opinion brings some added accountability, and even though like on probably on corporate documents and articles of incorporation, things like that, the actual team
Yep.
or at least identifying information is there. But if people have an actual face to a name for a project that let's say, I'm not saying they're going to commit a crime, but if they were to do something controversial, like there would be more accountability because there'd be some public outcry. But yeah, I
Or
agree with
if
that.
or if they've done something before that we didn't know about, like we know of the crime, but we don't know it's the same people. But I
This
don't
is
think
very
they're
true.
criminals. I think they wouldn't have raised this much money if they did something totally bad in the past.
This is very true, but in the same breath, like there have been a lot of venture capitalists and investors that have invested into very sketchy and controversial people simply because they think it could bring them a good return. And so we can't trust a cap table for accountability.
That's
Like
true.
there needs to be more visibility here. So now that you mention it, I kind of I'm like going to take a harder stance to say like, yeah, these people should be doxxed. It's kind of absurd.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like if they're launching an app on Berachain, it's one thing, but launching this actual huge ecosystem, it's a little bit crazy to just. I don't know. It feels like not taking it seriously, but at the same time, they're also very serious, and they're doing a fantastic job marketing and onboarding companies from what I see. So it's a weird one.
Just realized I wasn't following Berachain, which is a stupid move considering it's probably one of the biggest launches of the year. But yeah, they're close to 1 million followers on Twitter, and as you guys can see, like it's just this meme logo. I Nothing in crypto makes sense, right?
No,
Like, yeah, I would never give this advice to any company. Is like just pick an emoji for your logo and then like make this ridiculous branding. The website's even crazier, I think. But yeah,
yeah.
here we it's the website. And I don't know what to think of this. Like, how,
You literally
who are they
scroll
trying to
up.
attract?
You don't scroll down, right?
Yeah, yeah. I thought I was at the bottom. Or I thought I scrolled down accidentally, but I was actually at the bottom, and you scroll up only, right?
Yeah. So yeah, not how I would make a layer one or a layer one website, but who am I to judge? Like this, you're right. This is crypto, and we can't discount new ideas and people doing their own thing. The bad thing is that people will copy this. If it does well, they'll make their own emoji blockchains. So I at least give them kudos for being original and doing something weird and far out there. I think crypto is at its best when people are innovating and doing something new, and it's at its worst when we just copy paste stuff that we think will keep working.
Yeah, I mean, it does break all of the rules of marketing and narrative and storytelling. Like this is again, I would never give advice to any startup company on like doing something like this for your branding because you have no idea like who are you trying to attract to this ecosystem? Are you building Berachain for a specific purpose? Like there are a lot of different like purpose-driven blockchains out there. Like Scale is good for gaming, IOTeX for DPIN, Plume for RWA. But Berachain and this marketing, they're just talking about like proof of liquidity and all these buzzwords that might not mean a whole lot to builders. But the people that they've attracted with this are like, let's be honest, the degens in the industry. Like I don't know anyone else that's really really interested in Berachain
If
besides
you scroll down, I mean, you make a good point, but I think at the same time, like, no, go back up. That token right there. So this is like this. They do a good job of explaining. Actually, if you scratch beneath the surface, the degen surface, there actually is some, valuable context. Like it's all about building security, aligning protocol and validators. Proof of liquidity aligns network security and liquidity by validators, rewarding liquidity providers. So there is a second token that is not purchasable. It's just for people that are providing liquidity. So that is interesting in its own right. Like the way they've set up this economy, this ecosystem. So a lot of thought's been put into this. It's not as like basic as it looks. It's deceptive branding, but in a good way.
It makes you wonder, like if they had used maybe some more professional looking branding that matches like the tech stack and the back end, then would they have gotten this much attention over the past year? Oh.
I don't think so because it's hard to stand out right now. Everybody's launching a blockchain, and I think everybody knows of them because they went their own way. They kind of owned this. They've leaned heavily into it. They're like, we're not pretending to be this fancy blockchain that's gonna onboard, JP Morgan and BlackRock. Like we're just focused on liquidity. We know our target demographic and everything. They're hyper focused on liquidity. That seems to be the thing they obsess on the most. And
This is the
they
thing that
big
I was
ecosystem too.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, ecosystem is a big thing, right? They've got the cap table, they've got a bunch of investors, they got 140 plus million in funding. That was just for the Series A and Series B on publicly denoted information on Crypto Rank. We have no idea what pre-seed or seed capital they've raised, and they've got very very impressive names on the cap table. It seems like they've got ecosystem here, so they've got all the right ingredients to succeed. But even so, like 140, 150 plus $1 million in funds raised for a layer one blockchain, an EVM blockchain, like let's say for lack of creativity, it's a copy paste from a lot of like Ethereum root code,
Hmm.
but just a different consensus mechanism. That might put them in a launch valuation above $500 million, which is a lot compared to many other blockchains we've seen, right? So is it like a safe bet as far as an investment goes?
That's a good point. Like just because something looks like something you want to invest in, you have to look at the terms too. The valuation has to make sense because we saw some companies that launch way too high that are actually valuable and they make money, but they just needed a real recalibration of a more realistic launch price because whoever was in charge of designing that, grossly overestimated how much attention they'd be getting.
I love how they call their stablecoin honey.
Honey,
Honey money. That's great,
mo,
man. But
more
they've
money,
got,
more
like you said,
honey.
they've got the two tokens here. So you have BEX, swap tokens to provide liquidity to earn BGT rewards, and that's the governance token, the Berachain governance token. So I'm guessing this is the Berachain exchange token, but it's for governance and bribes on Berachain. I don't know why. I don't know why they included bribes in here. I'm
I mean,
kind of
bribes
curious.
meaning it's kind of like a gas, I think, to push transactions faster, or you can kind of like prioritize your transaction if you bribe the system. That's pretty common on like a lot of blockchains.
Hmm. This is true, right? Yeah, if you're increasing your gas, then you can push the transaction through quicker. But that's our 10 minutes. This has been fun and interesting, and I'd love to spend way more time in this. Honestly, we haven't taken a big look at the ecosystem, and we know a lot of companies are building on Berachain or planning to build on Berachain, right?
Yeah, and you're right. You mentioned Blast, and last year we saw Blast launch, and then we saw a lot of bad companies that had no business plan. They just wanted to be the first on Blast, and those cratered. And this is interesting because I've been hearing about companies building on this chain for the last year, and the chain isn't even live until tomorrow. So it makes you wonder. Not only are they building on this chain, but they have Bear branding too. They've really leaned into it, giving themselves pretty much no exit strategy. Like they are fully bought into this cult, and they are here for the long term, and they're not afraid. They're not shy about like branding everything with a bear on it too. So, if you look on the app store for this, I can't remember where. I think ecosystem maybe, but they're all bear themed, and there's so many things building on it. They have infrastructure, they have a DEX, they have an exchange, they have a marketplace for NFTs, they have God knows how many validators. So yeah, if you look here, they're all bear themed. I think This is a powerful ecosystem, and that's probably their main selling point. They have a lot of activity, and a lot of people are curious about building here. So I think that's a very positive sign for them that they're headed in the right direction. And I'm not sure how they've managed to do that besides throwing really good parties in Singapore and Dubai. But kudos to them. They've done it.
It's so wild, man. We gotta stop. I think that's we're way past our 10 minutes, but we've gotta jump into our verdicts. Before we do, I'd like to remind everyone, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you tap on that like button and give us a subscribe or a follow. We've got much more fun content coming out, including some interesting interviews coming out very soon. And if there's a project that you guys are interested in taking a look at us diving into, make sure you leave a comment below and let us know. But yeah, Carmelo, what's your verdict on Berachain?
I mean, my first take is that like this doesn't really appeal to me. I don't like investing in blockchains because there's so many good ones already out there that nobody even knows about. But the realist in me knows that in crypto, this is how things go. And I think this is probably going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, launch of the year. Like this might be Solana, great intensity. They already have ownership over a lot of the meme market control, market share, attention share, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's just going to continue to grow. People are going to launch bear meme coins on here. I'm probably going to go through some meme coin season. There's a lot of things already launching there. We've seen stuff like, I think there was a project you and I saw to quit smoking, and they pay you to stop smoking.
Yeah.
Or vaping, maybe. Bera
Vape to
vape.
earn.
Vape to earn, yeah. So they pay you to stop. So I don't know. There's a lot of weird projects launching on here, but in a strange way, I think it'll be successful. I would have to. You and I are, we design economies, so we would have to like dive deeper into the actual 2-token system and see how this actually works, because we haven't really looked under the hood of the car. We've just taken a very surface level glance. So just out of curiosity, I'd like to see how this economy functions, what proof of liquidity actually means, because it sounds nice, but I don't understand what's novel about this. It seems to be pretty original, but I'll give it a thumbs up. Like I would look deeper into it, but I still don't understand why it raised $142 million and why everybody's so excited about it. I think that's just crypto. That's how we think in crypto, and everybody wants to be a part of the next big thing, the next big layer one, even though we have plenty of layer ones already that are working just fine. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up.
Interesting. I think I kind of like echo that sentiment to a large part. I think I'm really interested in diving more into the tech and understanding what they said, like you mentioned, proof of liquidity. What I suspect is proof of liquidity looks a lot like proof of staking, because considering like people that are provisioning liquidity on exchanges are typically just staking tokens with some other asset of value. So it's like just double staking. So is it really like some big innovation? I don't know. But the branding and some of these buzzwords have garnered a lot of attention from a lot of speculators that are in this industry to make a gain, but don't know a whole lot about blockchain or the tech or the benefits behind it or even care. And so it seems to me like they're going down this path that Coinbase did with Base, where they tried to attract like meme coin builders to get a lot of attention and a lot of volume, but maybe like the fundamentals around the tech was good. So I'm hoping that's what they're doing. But in the long run, just like Blast, I have trouble seeing this like succeeding and competing against a lot of other very popular L1s that have like very, very good technology. They have foundations that are constantly building and innovating. They're delivering constant new token standards, and they're trying to solve like a lot of real world problems. We had an interesting discussion recently around how how should builders decide which blockchain to choose when they want to build, and the consensus mechanism is very rarely the deciding factor. So I don't really see a lot of projects building on Berachain for the fundamentals. Like once the hype and the shininess dies down, we might see like some slowed growth in the ecosystem, but we'll see. Like right now it's hot and it's fun, it's exciting, and kudos to the team for building some cool branding. So, best of luck with the mainnet launch. I hope you guys do very well.
Yeah, and I think, going back to that point, the token's interesting because, they don't want you to be able to buy economic power and governance power just off the market. I think the only way to be a validator or to help govern this ecosystem is to get that token, and you can only get that by supplying liquidity, which is interesting. They want to actually, you and I are always constantly exploring new governance systems that are better than $1 one vote, which is like the most broken way to do a governance system. So it is interesting, and you're absolutely right. Like, companies are not, they're most of these ecosystem builders, I'm sure that they haven't done a whole lot of digging into the ecosystem, like the deep tech. They're more interested in the cult, the memes, the marketing, the party, how this is a hot narrative. So yeah, once the dust settles, I'm curious to see if this is still a front runner. But in the meantime, you're right. Best of luck to the team. It's exciting nonetheless, and maybe we can have him on the podcast in the future to talk to him. I don't know if I could do an hour talking to a guy in a bear costume, but we've seen weirder stuff in crypto before.
Yeah, we got to get Smokey the Bera on here.
Yeah, challenge to him now too.
Well, thanks again for everyone for watching. Again, tap that like button, throw us a follow. You love us. You want to see more content. We'll be back very soon with some more investor eye tests, some more interviews, and some more fun, exciting things regardless. But until then, best of luck, Bera Chain team, and everyone stay safe out there. Ciao, y'all.